This September 7th, Mammoth is hosting the Mammoth Gran Fondo. It's located just outside of the entrance of the Yosemite National Park. The Mammoth Gran Fondo takes riders along the east side of the High Sierra with views of the Sierra Nevada Range, Mono Lake, and the White Mountains. It's got 3 different distance options: 102 miles, 70 miles, and 42 miles. For more information, check out mammothgranfondo.com or visit them on Facebook at Mammoth Gran Fondo. Welcome to the special edition of the Veloworthy podcast presented by IRC, Dirty Kanza edition. I'm your host, Brian Coe, and I'm super excited to get this show going for you. First of all, a couple things. Number one, if you want to get a hold of me, I'm Brian at veloworthy.com. Instagram is at Veloworthy. And if you can't get enough of events like Dirty Kanza, go ahead and check us out on YouTube. We did our first video, and we just put it out there the other day, but it's sort of our experience, Veloworthy's experience at Dirty Kanza. We bring you all the race action, some of which wasn't planned. We have some great race footage in there, maybe even the winning move. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's got some great footage before and after and during and all the hectic parts as well. So go ahead and check that out on YouTube. It's also at Veloworthy. But let's go ahead and get right into the show. So like I said, this is a big show. In fact, this is just part 1. Part 2 should be coming out shortly, so be on the lookout for that anywhere you download podcasts. But let's go ahead and get started. So we went out all the way to Emporia, Kansas. We talked to as many people as we could. The entire town comes out. I cannot understate the amount of support from the public and the bike industry for this event. This event's been going on for about 10 years, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is, of course, our first year, but it's also a first year for many, including 5 World Tour professionals, which we're going to get to in a bit. But first, let's go ahead and talk to the only person that can really make this race happen. That is the race director. His name's Leland, and we're going to get to him right now. We are here at the 2019 Dirty Kanza with Leland Dains, the event director of the event. Basically, this event would not be able to happen without his blessing, his consent, any of those things. What do we have on store for 2019 this year?
Well, we have a lot, but I want to first start out by saying thank you. That's very kind of you, but I have an amazing team behind me, and I've got to give them a shout out because they're doing a lot of the hard work while I get to stand here and talk to you. But there's a lot to expect in 2019, a lot that's new, a new course. We're going north for the first time in a long time. We have been north before, but it's been nearly a decade. And so the hills are a little bigger, the rocks are a little chunkier, and I think it's going to prove to be a more challenging day on the bike than it has been in the past few years. There's also our expanded expo. It's a 2-day expo, all things gravel expo, Thursday and Friday. We've got over 100 vendors here in town, and that was our cap. We had to start turning people away, and so we're beyond thrilled with the excitement that the industry has for the event, as well as all the participants and fans coming in town to check it out.
And not to mention, it seems also like, I've only been in Kansas for a few hours, but it seems like this is a community. Like literally the people that live here that open up their homes, volunteer their time, that come out and support I was walking down the street, I saw chalk on the ground of people writing positive messages. You don't see that at other bike races. You don't see that at World Tour events. It's definitely got a very welcoming environment.
Well, that's the folks of Emporia and the surrounding area. The people of Kansas are unlike any other, and they are woven into the fabric of this event. Emporia is Dirty Kanza, and Dirty Kanza is Emporia, and I believe the two are inseparable. And the folks from this community, they literally receive everyone with open arms. They roll out the red carpet, and they are genuinely excited to have you all in town. This is a real treat for us to be able to share our home and what we love so much. We know this is a special place, and it gives us great joy to share it with you because it's very eye-opening for people who have never been here before.
And the other side of the coin, too, is as an event gets bigger and bigger, it tends to draw in more elite athletes. We're seeing for the first time this year people who basically race bikes for a living on the Pro Tour compared to most people that ride bikes for fun. What are your thoughts on, the having the World Tour riders come to this race lining up with people that, work 50 hours a week at a desk?
Well, I couldn't think it. I think it couldn't be any more awesome. I mean, the whole point of gravel is to welcome all with open arms. That's how Emporia is. That's how gravel is. And so we really shouldn't receive these guys any differently. The fact that they get to do this for a living, we should all be really stoked that they chose to make Dirty Kanza a part of their program and a part of their job. But most importantly, I have had interaction with a lot of these riders, and they are stoked to be coming here. They are humbled. They are grateful. They're ready to take it all in and just enjoy the experience. If anyone has followed these riders, I mean, take the EF guys in particular, Taylor Finney, Lachlan Morton, those guys truly love riding your bikes, and it's obvious with the videos they produce, the things that they do, the rides that they choose to do. They clearly love what they do, and they're definitely going to bring that attitude to Emporia, Kansas, and be a positive addition, not a negative detraction.
Okay, lastly, let's talk about, we've got some interesting weather coming up on Saturday. And a lot of wind. What are your predictions of how the race is going to unfold on Saturday?
Well, it's funny you say a lot of wind, because I'm looking at the forecast and that's light and breezy for around here. 10 to 15 miles an hour, even up to 20 miles an hour, that's par for the course. So from our perspective, from being around here, that's really nothing. But there is a chance of, here's what I've been telling people, there's a 30 to 50% chance of rain, so it's pretty likely that we won't get anything. Had they said there won't be any rain, it probably would have rained. So I think we're in good shape. I've had reports from out on the course, and the conditions look fantastic. Not only is it not going to be way too muddy, it's actually going to be pretty fast, I think, with the exception of some really chunky rock that's going to make things really interesting. And there'll be rutted roads and it's going to be challenging terrain, but I don't think there's going to be significant hike-a-bike, and people should not be scared of that. They should just prepare themselves for a big day of pedaling on the bike.
All right, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thanks.
And it looked like Leland was right about the weather. You always got to trust the locals. Next up, we started walking up and down the expo. We ran into somebody named Chris Ambrose. He's a local resident of Emporia. He wanted to give his perspective on the Dirty Kanza.
I moved here in 12. DK had been around before that and was still big when we got here. So, but it's gotten enormous here, and it's really. We have a handful of disc golf events here, and then DK, and then a couple other cycling events that are just enormous here. And as a result of the development and growth of this, it seems like kind of outdoor sports stuff has become huge here, and even the people that aren't riding are really supportive of it and are really in favor of its growth and development. Like, I have farmers when I'm out riding training, like waving at me out in fields. Like, we have super, you're out riding, people out in trucks are super supportive and nice.
They're not running you off the road?
No, the big problem we have here is everybody goes too slow around you. You'll be out in the country riding, and these guys in these ranchers in these huge trucks will slow down to like next to nothing. And because they're so polite around you, and everybody's super familiar with cyclists here, and so we are probably I think it's a safe place to cycle, first off. And then secondly, the community is really supportive of it. Like, I'm riding the 100, and, people know that I ride around here, and everybody's stopping and asking, when am I riding? When do you think I'm going to be done? I want to be there to support you at the finish line and all that kind of stuff. I think with gravel, I kind of follow the gravel news cycle and the blogs and everything. And one thing that we've seen a lot of lately is, what can we do to incorporate local communities instead of, one thing we hear a lot is organizers come into a town, they have a race, they pack up and leave. One thing that you'll notice here is locals are integral to the whole thing. We have local volunteers. We have 3 bike shops that are supported in a squarely middle-class town of 30,000 in Kansas, which is insane. We have a lot of local businesses that are, I would say, cycling adjacent or cycling really friendly. Okay. That, it's kind of a place that they have, it might be a little junk shop in town that has cycling accoutrement and all kinds of old cycling antiques or whatever else.
So the way cycling sort of shaping the life of Emporia and vice versa.
I think, in some extent, yeah, that our culture is really built around it. That it's a crazy thing. Like, if you see the group rides here, like on a normal night, You've got some white collar guys, dentists with expensive bikes, which is the stereotype. But then also you've got guys that work in a pet food factory here in town that are out riding and really involved in the community. And it kind of has dropped all of a lot of the stereotypes surrounding cycling and gravel, I think, are gone anyways. Right. But here especially, the stereotypes are gone, and there's a lot of equality within the cycling community where it's kind of a ride what you brung kind of thing. And it's really welcoming to people that, when I started, I wasn't in a great physical condition to keep up with these people, but it was always really encouraging. And they're not running like extreme drop rides here, which I think encourages more cyclists. Right. And then you get more people riding, and it just keeps getting bigger. And then, you might not cycle, but you've got a husband or a friend that does. And then that person knows about it and is supportive of it because it's your thing too.
That is a great perspective from a local cyclist who's able to sort of capture the atmosphere of the local cycling scene. And, hopefully he stays in the sport a long time. Someone who's been in the sport a very long time and came out all the way to Dirty Kanza, not just to participate, but to also be very competitive, joined us. His name's Eric Marcotte. He's a former national champion turned gravel rider, and he joined us in the IRC Pop Up shop, which was right on Main Street, right next to the Granada Theater.
Eric Marcotte, and racing with Factor bikes, IRC tires, Black Ink wheels, Elil clothing. Just got it all. Shimano. I got all the good stuff. I get to choose it now.
How's your skill set going to play into going on 200 miles of rocks and cow shit?
See, I've been trying to figure that out too. I think it's you can have the biggest engine in the world, but things could go wrong in the first 10 miles. So I've really enjoyed the whole process of getting here, getting off road, seeing new trails I haven't been on with the bikes, and it's physically I think I'm pretty well prepared because I'm a well balanced guy. I'm not just one specialist like you're talking about, like that can only climb 20 or 6+ watts per kilo. I do hiking, I do skiing, I do the gym work and stuff. So physically I could probably take a little bit more of the hit and the beating of these types of events, and just hope all the equipment holds out well and luck is on the side.
Do you have a specific strategy that you're going in for tomorrow, or are you just going to pin it right at the line?
I mean, I think if you want to do well as far as placing, you're going to have to stay with the lead riders and then sort of pace yourself and be smart about the technical sections or things that could go wrong. You don't want to get mud and clay ripping derailleurs off and then you're done just because you're trying to stay with those. I'm just gonna have fun, dude. I think I'm fit enough, and if everything goes well, I'll have a good day out there.
So this is the first year that they're having the 800-pound gorilla in the room with EF and Trek and World Tour guys. And when you talk to them, they're like, "Hey, we don't know what to expect either. We've never done this." Mm-hmm. But what they do have is World Tour legs and Paris-Roubaix under their legs and Liège and Tour California, among other things. Is that going to change or dictate any of the way other people ride or you ride?
I'm sure, because I think a lot of people look at those names and the ability of those riders, and so they kind of just sit around them and follow them and that type of stuff. But I think you should really just ride your ability and your strengths and then let it shake out from there, because it's all uncharted territory for a lot of us. It is my first event like this too, so I really don't know what to expect. Just bring my A game and be smart and have fun out there.
Do you think that events like this should have the highest caliber athletes like World Tour riders doing it, or should it be more, a lot of people say it takes away from the purity of the gravel scene whenever you have money, or not money, but whenever you have big names show up, it's no longer a local sort of low-key thing. It's now a huge thing.
I don't know. I think everybody that's on a bike is for it ultimately for the same reason. So, if the big names are here and drawing more attention to riding a bike, and instead of seeing the difference in physical ability, see the similarity of that we're both on the bikes, I think that's That's what should be happening. I don't think there's anything bad to it. I mean, maybe if the riders show up from those teams then aren't acknowledging the special scene that this is, then that could take away from it if they're not being, cordial to each other and stuff. But other than that, I think it's actually a good thing to be bringing more.
And then just for you personally, like, do you have a certain strategy for your nutrition, your setup? Like you said, you've never done this. Are you just going to load up with as much gear as you can? Are you running it lean? Like, what about your nutrition, your hydration? How's that look?
Yeah, look, we're gonna go over that, like where the stops are, that I can get some support and try to figure out like about the amount of time that it would take to get there, and then calculate the hour or the calories or what I would probably need between those sections. And I mean, these types of things, this isn't like a 4-hour race where like it's super deep into the intensity, or so you're gonna have to pace yourself. So that's, knowing the distance and time is going to help keep the calories topped off, the glycogen stores topped off, and the head straight. I mean, knowing when you're coming up to that stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's my background, exercise science as well. So I kind of understand what I would be needing. We'll see.
What about you were talking about your head, so like your emotions. I mean, people have to go into some deep, sometimes dark places when they're out there in the middle of nowhere. How's that going to factor into, the way when the chips are down, how are you going to sort of motivate yourself to, you're like, oh my God, it's only 110 miles. It's just over halfway done. How are you going to sort of cope with that?
I think I've done that enough, like gone to those places that you know how to be comfy, being uncomfortable. And then also you just tap into the reason that you're doing it and why you would want to be out here. And I mean, I don't think, for me, that's the least likely it'd be an issue. I quite enjoy that process of it, because you find out who you are and what you're made of, as far as not just physically, like what you can do, but more mentally, why you're here, like literally here in this world, and what you're trying to do with that time.
Oh, you're talking about like why? What's my purpose?
Yeah, I mean, that's
in life?
exactly where you have to, or I choose to go with that stuff, because I don't know, that's why I go ride every day, man.
So what's your one thing you really want to leave Kansas for this race? Like, what's your one thing you want to take away for you to define it as a success?
Just gonna sound corny, but bro, I've already won getting here. I really enjoy the whole build up and documenting that and taking care of myself and getting up early to beat the heat in Arizona, going to bed early, eating organic, getting adjusted, getting massaged, doing stretches, like shit. Like, this is my life. So
this is like the icing on the cake. This
for
is the
sure,
reward.
because again, if I put everything on having a result and then something goes bad, somebody takes me out on the ride, like, dude, I didn't enjoy those 6 months preparing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's for me, it's already gravy now.
Yeah. And then after DK, what's in your sort of future? I mean, gravel's this untapped world that people are heading towards. Are you going to be sort of doing more gravel events?
Yeah, I'll do a few of them. I still like the road, of course. I get that most of my like aerobic and fitness training on the road. So I've got some pretty sick bikes that I want to race, so I'll probably try to get in a few of those events, but I will show up for the Crusher and the Tusher, and I like to do quite a bit of video content and stuff like that on social media feeds, and so I'm going to try to figure out how to do some fun rides and some training things where I show like what goes into preparation for these things, so people who are interested in like what is necessary to come out of this okay physically and have a best chance at doing well. I'll start doing that as well, because I think that's important for people to know, especially if I have that info. Like, why wouldn't I share it?
Next, we get to a cyclist's key piece of equipment choice. And of course, we talk tires. And here, Eric talks about his tire setup and tire choice with the IRC Bokens.
So I'm on the IRC Bokens, the 36s. They're super sweet. I mean, so in Arizona, it's a little bit different roads. So I was on the Serac, the CX,
So that's
the 32.
No side knobby. It's
No,
just the
so
pilot.
I did they have one that has the side knobs for the Serac, and then now these Bokens do as well. So, yep, yeah, the Edge. It's called the Serac Edge. So that's what I was running in AZ 32s, and then just it's so much longer of a event like this, and there's a lot more. There's some big rocks out here, so I need something to be able to roll over those. So that's why I went with the Bokens.
What kind of tire pressure are you running?
I don't know. I think we're gonna do. We'll have to chat about that one. Just because you don't know, like, is it if you're gonna keep burping or something where, again, if you know the distance between the segments, like what could you be running? I mean, it's not like Arizona where it's 70 degrees in the morning and 100 by the time you're done. So you riding on the road, you're with the heat on the road, it's going to be increasing the pressure. So you might want to start low. This is a little different case with the dirt.
Yeah. And then pros and ex-pros are notorious for being bad mechanics on their own bikes. How are your sort of
skills
if
something goes wrong?
Something goes bad,
yeah, I probably, over the years, of course, have delegated too much to the mechanics to not know quite as well. But now in this last, 6 to 8 months, I've gotten really familiar with everything. So unless it's something crazy, I should be okay. If something goes wrong, I'll feel okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And the IRC should hold up. They have an extra layer in the sidewall that gives it a little bit more protection, adds weight, but maybe that'll save you minutes, if you don't have to.
Oh my God, it'll save you. Could you save you the race if you've got that protection? And yeah, I mean, just be smart about the lines you're taking and trust in the equipment that you have.
Another pre-race favorite we talked to is Sarah Max. She got second at the recent Belgian Waffle Ride, which is a great event itself. Some say it's hard to translate over to DK, that type of event compared to Dirty Kanza, but Sarah Max can do well at both. We talked to her at the IRC Pop Up shop.
Sarah Max, I ride for Argonaut Cycles, and I'm a financial rider.
All right. Welcome to Kansas, Emporia. Is this your first Dirty Kanza?
Oh, yes. In fact, a year ago, I had never heard of the Dirty Kanza.
You never heard of it?
Nope.
Wow. So what brought you out here?
Let's see. Initially, I heard about Dirty Kanza. I was intrigued by a hard race. Last year, I raced the Breck Epic, and on the second day, a guy ran into me and crashed me out, and I tore my rotator cuff and I had in labrum, and I had surgery in September, and I decided I needed a big goal to kind of motivate me, and I signed up for Dirty Kanza. I wouldn't say I have specific goals in terms of where I place. I obviously would love to podium, but I think for tomorrow, really, I am just trying to, I know everybody says this, but I really am trying to just kind of enjoy it and have as many of the highs as I can and minimize the lows. One thing that's been really cool about Dirty Kanza is that it's actually just been an impetus for me to do other races and ride, do lots of riding around my house in Oregon. So I kind of see it as like the, it's been the part of the journey.
And you're no stranger, though, to gravel riding. You are coming off a hot second place at BWR, is it?
Yes.
So second place behind Sarah Sturm, and that is no easy event. But this is, I don't want to say a whole another level, but it's a very different
Absolutely. And I think that's why I don't really have any expectations, is because I think it is going to be a very different event, both in terms of the terrain and just the sheer time on the bike. I think there is a difference between racing for 7.5 hours and 12 plus 13, whatever it's going to take hours.
Right. So in addition to making the most out of it and enjoying it, is there anything specific you want to sort of take away? So on that flight home, what's the one thing you really want to say, okay, I did it? What does that mean for you?
Well, I think anytime you race, you can often have those regrets afterwards where you think about if only I'd gone with that group, or, I'd checked this piece of equipment or whatever it is. And I think I'm going to try to minimize the regrets. Let's put it that way. Okay. I want to have no regrets.
No regrets. Okay. So speaking of which, it's one of those you got to be self-supported for the most part. Mm-hmm. You have to be dialed in with not only your nutrition, but your gear. What kind of tire setup are you running for the 200 miles out there?
So obviously for me, the biggest thing is minimizing flats. I mean, even on a good day, I am not great at changing flats or fixing flats. So I'm planning to switch over to the IRC Boken 36s. I don't have a ton of clearance on my bike, but I think those will do the trick.
So when you're out there, not that you ever would, but if you do flat, do you have the skills to fix it quick and get back out there? Have you been practicing?
I have not been practicing as much as I should, I will admit. I'm pretty good with just, assessing the situation with tubeless and fixing those. But when it comes to actually having to do a legit, put an actual tube in and do it quickly, I'm not going to lie, it's been on my to-do list for the last 2 months, change flats or change tires, and I didn't quite get to that.
Well, maybe tomorrow could be the day. Or not.
Exactly. I'm just going to, think good thoughts in terms of no flats. I think it's a long enough race that you really do have to I think you do have to be aware of where you should be, kind of going back to that idea of not having regrets. Mm-hmm. And if marking certain people means that I can get in a good group, then I will. But for the most part, I think I'm just going to have to race within myself. And one of the reasons that I think I was successful at BWR is that early on, I was not in a great spot going into the single track. And I just told myself it was the warm-up I didn't have, and to stay calm and just work my way up. I think it'll be a little bit harder with Dirty Kanza just because there aren't those big climbs. But yeah, I think to a certain degree, I'm going to try to do my own event.
And is this the type of course that suits your skills?
I don't think so. I think climbing probably suits my skills a little bit more. My background is actually in Nordic skiing. I've done a lot of cycling over the years, but kind of the longer the climb, the steeper the climb, usually the better I do. So I would say that this probably is the exact opposite of what suits me.
Nordic skiing, so is that the sport where you're skating?
Cross-country skiing, yeah.
Diggins, is that the big...
Jesse Diggins, yes.
The big American right now?
Yes.
So you're doing that, and then there is some crossover though.
Yes.
Fitness-wise.
Well, there's actually a lot of crossover both in the fitness, but then a lot of the racing dynamics and the kind of races I was doing for Nordic, which were more recently were these large ski marathons, both in the US and in Europe. Very similar to gravel in that men and women are starting together in these huge mass starts where you've got the elite people at the front. You've got, there were some races with thousands and thousands of people. And so the dynamics are actually pretty similar in terms of getting in good groups and, both men and women, knowing how to pace yourself, knowing how to eat. All of that is actually not that different from Nordic skiing. Yeah. Instead of getting flats, you break poles.
So between cycling and skiing, which one are you more in love with?
Oh, cycling right now.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
What is it about cycling that you're just drawn to?
I think I'm drawn to that there's so many courses. I've just really started and there's so many races I want to do. There's so many places I want to explore. And you're a little more limited in Nordic skiing. You can't just be driving down a road and look up a path and say, I want to go ski that. You can, it just won't be very fun.
There's a nice desert,
yeah.
rocky hill.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is the future for you gravel cycling?
Yeah, I think so. I've dabbled in a lot of different kinds of cycling in the past, and this definitely suits me. I'm not a huge fan of kind of sit-in-to-win road cycling mentality. I like mountain biking, but my engine's better than my technical skills. I like cyclocross, but the races are a little too short. So yeah, I think gravel's where it's at.
All right. Well, good luck tomorrow. We'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this break. If you're looking for a Gran Fondo that is both challenging as well as beautiful, check out the Mammoth Gran Fondo. It is one of the oldest running Gran Fondos at 26 years running, and it has also made Bicycling Magazine's top 10 centuries for its jaw-dropping vistas. It has 75 miles that is completely closed to traffic, not to mention at the end, there are awards for the fastest male finisher, fastest female, as well as fastest team finisher. You have 3 fantastic options to choose from at 102 miles for you super strong people out there, 70 miles, as well as 42 miles. Each participant is given a great pair of event socks, free professional event photos, and not to mention a post-ride meal plus music in the village at Mammoth. And my personal favorite, you get a beer to go with that as well. Check them out at mammothgranfondo.com or on Facebook at Mammoth Gran Fondo. This special edition of the Veloworthy podcast at Dirty Kanza is brought to you by IRC Tires. All of the riders at the Dirty Kanza are riding the Boken gravel tire. Basically what that is, it's a fast rolling gravel race tire that comes in a 700 by 40 and 700 by 36 with sidewall puncture protection. Basically, it's like a filed tread with really great grippy knobbies on the sides. You can actually learn more about it at ircbike.com, or you can ask for them at your local bike shop. And here's the best part. If you use the code Veloworthy, you get 20% off a set of those tires at puregravel.com, P-U-R-E gravel.com. Go ahead and check them out. And now let's get back to the show. Next up, IRC Tire hosted a pop-up shop right next door to the Granada Theater in downtown Emporia. In fact, just a few hundred feet from the start and finish areas. We held a tire therapy clinic and got to talk to two riders in the race. One of them is Jake Wells, who participated in the Dirty Kanza XL, which is the 350-mile version. And the other person we talked to was Adam Mills, who's doing the DK200. That's sort of the signature event. Here's what they had to say. 200 miles is just too little for you. So you decided to do the official name is the Dirty Kanza XL, which is the 350-mile one.
Right.
What's your thought process behind that?
Well, XL stands for extra large. So the thought process behind signing up for that event,
doing it.
Yeah. So, I've done the 200 now twice, 2 years in a row, 17 and 18. And last year the XL came online as an option, and 350-mile version. And it's not only unique with the mileage, but it's also unique because of it's completely self-supported. So you're completely self-reliant out there, just you and the other competitors that you're racing with, and you're relying on gas stations in these little towns for refuel, so there's no support crew, there's no any kind of nutrition hand-ups or anything like that. So for me, that when I first saw that, it was a little scary as an option. It's like, oh man, 200s is hard enough. The 350, and you add in the whole self-supported element of it, just seemed really kind of daunting. And so then it took a little while to process that, and then I thought, you know what? I'm going to throw my name in the hat and see if I get in, because it's an invitation kind of thing. So you have to apply and they'll give you the nod or not.
Did you have to write your life story?
Yeah. Well, one of the questions was, how many rides longer than 300 miles have you done? And, I've got a goose egg there. So I thought I'm probably not going to get in, but, and then they launched the start list the night before Cross Nationals. I was out in Louisville for Cross Nationals, and the list came out that night. I was racing Saturday. Single speed race was Saturday, and so Friday night it came out, and my sister sent me a message and was just like, "Good luck with your next adventure." I was like, "I'm racing national championships tomorrow. Like, what are you talking about?" And then the next day at the start line, I was gridded. We were kind of waiting for call-ups, and buddy of mine that was there, he's like, "Hey, what's going on with this DKXL?" And I was like, "Man, I'm focusing on this. I can't be thinking about 350 miles in June." But so yeah, I was psyched to find out I got in, and I'm really excited about the adventure and just kind of testing myself and seeing what kind of things come up out there, and just kind of being out of my comfort zone completely. So
For a long time. Adam, you're doing the 200.
Right.
The lesser of the event, but it's still by no means a small feet. What is your, you're from Kansas, this is sort of your bread and butter. What is your thought process for tomorrow morning? What's going to happen?
Well, first I want to wish Jake good luck. That event is firmly in the silly category in my mind, but also in like the exceptional superhero category. So I think you're going to do awesome. Good luck.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I've never done Dirty Kanza 200. I did the 100 last year. When I was growing up here, I remember a bunch of guys and a couple of them were like working at the Trek store in Kansas City, and I was sponsored by the store at the time for our road team, and they had this like crazy silly idea of let's do 200 miles in Kansas on gravel roads. And I'd ridden a bunch of gravel roads because they're fun and adventurous, and you know, when you get chased by a dog or whatever, a farm dog, it's always a good sprint workout, right? And it's like, man, that sounds like a horrible idea, but also like a pretty cool adventure. But we all kind of made fun of them, like, who would ever want to ride 200 miles on gravel? And now the event's like sold out before it even opens. It's because we all do this lottery system and whatever. And I was fortunate enough to make it in. And so that's what brings me out here. I've always kind of thought I want to maintain this like lifestyle of active and riding a bike and having fun, being able to do events that I want to do whenever I want to do them without having to say, oh, I want to prepare for 2 years to do this event. And so I'm not as prepared as I would like to be for an event like Dirty Kanza. I also don't know if you can be as prepared as you'd like to be for an event like Dirty Kanza. So we'll find out. I'm just going to try and finish and try and not completely fall apart. Those are my 2 goals.
Great.
In that order, actually.
You're both coming off fresh-ish from BWR, Belgian Waffle Ride in SoCal. You both did the BWR. Jake, talk to you briefly. Sort of compare, like, is the prep different for an event like Belgian Waffle Ride versus Dirty Kanza? And then Adam, same question for the 200.
Yeah, for me it is. I think if you're doing the 140 Belgian Waffle Ride and then you're coming out and doing the 200 here, it's a little bit different equipment prep and nutrition plan, because at BWR there's the aid stations are no more than 20 miles apart. There's a lot more pavement, so it's a lot faster pace, but it's a good build up toward the 200, I think. But for the 350, it's a completely different ball game. So for me at Belgian Waffle Ride, I was using that as a training day, as a test day. Adam and I were together at about the 2.5 hour mark, and we went out really fast with that front group, and then we kind of found each other out there on the course, and I just kind of at that point just kind of settled into kind of a training pace. Testing my nutrition plan and testing my pacing for the rest of the kind of 4.5, 5 hours of that ride. So for me, it was a big prep and a good trial run. The course conditions there compared to at BWR compared to Dirty Kanza are completely different. I mean, there's probably there's probably only 15 miles at the most of pavement. That's probably even generous. Where at BWR, there's like 100 miles of pavement and 40 miles of dirt. So.
And then Adam, you went out pretty hard at the start of BWR. You were like top 15 for a while until you weren't. Are you going to do the same thing?
Absolutely not.
Taylor Finney's wheel for as long as you can, and then go.
That was my original plan. A Belgian Waffle Ride was to hang on to the front group or maybe the second group until the bottom of Black Canyon. It's a Black Canyon sector's like an hour-long sector of uphill, basically. And after the first dirt section, I realized that wasn't going to be possible, so let's just try and stay with this group till Highland Valley, and that was barely possible. But it came at a cost, and those guys are really fast, and you pay a price for it, and I paid the price all day long. I think Jake and I talked, and then I wasn't there anymore as you kept going. But I was dropped from every group that I rode in that day. So I was consistent. But it was ultimately miserable for a fair amount of time. So I'm not going to be on that plan today. Okay. I'm going to be on just ride and get there and go at a pace that I know I can do. Not try and keep up with to my last count, there were 5 World Tour guys on this. And my wife asked me, like, do you think you can hang with the front group? And I said, I think if Taylor Phinney wants to go ride really hard, there's nothing I can do that's going to dictate whether or not I can stay with him, other than if he wants me to stay with him.
So yeah, that kind of leads to my next thing. There is a World Tour presence. You have 3 EF guys, 2 Trek Segafredo guys, and that may dictate a fast start because you're going to get the non-pros that are like, I want to just hang on their wheel or ride by them, which could dictate a faster start. What are your thoughts on the whole World Tour coming to do an event like DK? Is it good for it? Is it bad for it? Does it take away from the people that work 60 hours a week at a desk? Or is it good overall because the event's getting bigger?
You want to take it?
Sure. So there's a question to Jim Cummins posed of, are you going to stagger the start? Are you going to not start in waves or something? And he answered it really well, and the short answer was no, but the long answer was like, this is a life experience and an opportunity for everyone to test themselves in this event. And that goes for the best athletes in the world too. I think the World Tour guys are going to get an eye-opener as to how difficult an event like this is. None of them have dared to start the 350, the XL, because they want zero part of that. Or they don't want to tangle with Jake over here. But I like it because the sport, it shows this effort of the sport, of the high level of sport trying to be more inclusive and involve more people and get out and talk to people. We've seen guys like Jens Voigt and Sven Nys were here last year, and they were involved, but they weren't truly trying to win. But people who rode with Jens Voigt, I don't know if any of them are here. Like, the guy was amazing and had a great presence.
I'm here. I rode with him at the end.
Okay. So from everyone I talked to,
I was so cracked, and he was just like, we were trading along, and this guy's on a fat bike with aero bars, and he comes up. I was on the front of our group of 9 or whatever, and I pull off, and he's like, "Hey, is that Jens Voigt up there?" I'm like, yeah, we're all cracked. We were all so far back.
But it's an equalizer.
Right? It is.
And it's just opportunity for everyone to meet everybody and to experience this life event with people that may be your idols. And to me, it's a great attempt or it's the high level of sport reaching out to try and involve people. And I think that should be credited to saying, like, welcome.
Yeah.
Jake,
well, it's a testament to the event itself, to have the growth that DK has seen in the last 14 years, and just how challenging the course is and the format, the way that they've structured everything, to have these World Tour teams that see the value in coming here, because there's really nothing but bragging rights. There's no payout. There's no, they're not paying these guys to come. So
there's a belt buckle.
There's a buckle, right. So, and that's new for this year. Up till then, it's just been kind of a mug, and that's it. So to me, it's a testament to the quality of the event. If a sponsor like Trek, a World Tour team like Trek sees that the value in it, and same thing with Education First, then I think that fits perfectly with their demographic, and I talked to the mechanic, buddy of mine, Tom Hopper, that works with the Education First program, and we were talking about, equipment demands a couple months ago for his guys, and I asked him, I was like, hey, how much? I mean, you guys already have a huge target on your back just by showing up, and how's that? How are you guys going to handle that? And he was adamant about the fact that they're here to embrace the culture of gravel and embrace the town of Emporia and the culture of the DK, and they're going to ride and they're going to come in fit. I mean, all 3 of those guys just came off of I don't know if Keel was. They were all 5 at Tour of California, yeah. So they're all going to be super fit. But I think, like Adam said, that they're going to be probably a little bit shocked at how strong other riders are, especially on this type of terrain. And but also, they're here they're here to experience it, you know. So I think it's that unique opportunity as a general public rider to be able to jump into an event and be in the same race. And you're not comparing yourself, you're not maybe racing for that finish against them, but you're at least able to look back and say, on the same day, on the same course, same conditions, you know, this is where I stacked up.
Yeah,
so.
I was having the same conversation with somebody about marathons. Mm-hmm. Nobody gets mad that the Kenyans are showing up.
Sure.
They just all race and compare their times. That leads to kind of the next thing. World Tour rider biggest weakness is their ability to fix their own bikes out there. They're used to raising a hand, having the team car come up and click the radio. That could play into it.
Yeah.
You know, they're not known for being quick on the draw with fixing things. Let's talk about your equipment choices.
Yep.
We've got some killer tires that you're running. Are you both running the same tire setup for the XL and then the DK200? Are you both running the IRC Bokens?
Right.
We
I think
are.
We are.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm running a 40 in the front and then a 36 in the back. Mostly just for mud clearance. You know, I'm on a Scott Addict frame, and it's with the 40. I ran the 40 last year here on that same frame, and with the conditions that we have, I'm just a little bit going on the cautious side for mud clearance, but same tread front and rear. You know, a little bit less volume in the back, which isn't probably my first choice. I'd love to have that extra little bit of cushion, especially with the added weight of all the nutrition and extra parts I'm bringing, but I'd rather not be having to, you know, stop and clear mud out consistently as well.
Are you running the same setup, like a wider tire in the front and then more narrow in the rear? Or?
I'm running 40C tires on both.
On both.
I'm running the open up gravel bike, and it has a little bit more clearance in the back, and I want, because mud clearance isn't much of an issue for that bike, I just wanted the widest tires, because the gravel up north is pretty big. The rocks are big. It's like unmaintained roads. They'll just stick a sign in the ditch that says unmaintained road, travel at your own risk. And then on like the back of the sign, they'll write a date where they put the sign in. And then sometimes like 20 years ago. And I think someone should go along with a stencil and just spray paint like good luck under it. But I wanted like the most off-road terrainable option that I could get a hold of. So I'm just running the widest tires. And I think honestly the 40 mil gravel tires are kind of the new thing. It's all getting wider. Like the 33 mil cross tires were the original gravel tires. Now they're 40 mils. Road tires were 23, then they were 25. You'd be hard pressed to find anything smaller than a 28 on a lot of the pro teams now. Mm-hmm. They're all doing the wider rims, so a 25 still measures 28. So everything's going wider. It's all getting more aero in the process. It's all riding really well.
You can fit a 650 on that bike, right?
Yeah, that bike. Well, you can too on yours probably.
No,
it's all through axle,
I've
right?
tried, but it hits this chainstay or the chainstay.
So yeah, you can run.
But why did you decide to run the 40 versus the 47?
I didn't want the weight penalty of a 47.
Yeah.
Not saying it's particularly heavy. I also like the bigger wheels I'm running the NV G23 wheels with like the hookless bead technology, and I already have them, so I don't have to like try and, you know, track down a 650 wheel set. And so it's just, as far as equipment goes, just plug and play. And if I need that 2.1 mountain bike tire, I'm probably need a different bike anyway.
Yeah.
And hopefully I don't need it.
Right.
But
it's the run what you brung mentality, right?
Right.
That's what I got. I'm going to make it work.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's smart. I think the widest tire you can fit without compromising mud clearance is kind of the idea.
50% chance of rain tomorrow.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're on the course.
Scattered showers.
We're
going to keep that loose.
A little bit of wind. Let's talk about either the most beautiful or the ugliest piece of equipment out there, aero bars.
Yeah.
Are you guys running aero bars on your gravel bikes?
I never have, but I am for the XL.
You are? And
yeah.
Why are you putting aero bars on your bike? Is it more for comfort?
Exactly.
Rather than aerodynamics?
Yeah, it's not so much aerodynamics. I mean, maybe if there is a crazy, headwind or crosswind, then that might be a little bit beneficial. But when you're creeping along at 12 miles an hour, which I've envisioned, there'll probably be some of that at some point during this event for me. It's aerodynamics is probably not the biggest concern. It's more for comfort.
Okay.
And I felt like in the 200, I've always thought it was a little bit sketchy, to run aero bars in a field that size, going that fast at the front. But in the 350, it's a much smaller event as far as just sheer numbers. For me, the biggest thing was just comfort and another hand position to change out, because you're just going to be on that bike for 25, 24, 34, something like that hours. I don't know.
Okay.
Forever.
A long time.
Adam, what about you? You're running aero bars.
I am not. I am siding with Jake's logic that they are dangerous in mass start events. That's why they're not allowed in road racing. It's specifically why they're not allowed in road racing. And I've crashed on gravel. Not a good thing. I don't. If I'm in a position in this event where I need aero bars, that means I'm by myself, and I have done something horribly wrong. if that's the case, it's 200 miles. There's going to be more than enough wind for everybody. Just find a group of buddies or new best friends and ride and enjoy it. I also have a separated shoulder, so I'm not sure I can ride an aero bar position for any amount of time that would benefit me anyway without it hurting. So a little bit of everything, but mostly I don't think they're safe. I did talk to Ted about it last year, and he said it's a horrible idea. The problem is they're so effective as a tool. So it was really a situation where the rules don't say no, and the aerodynamic advantage is substantial. So if you're trying to win Dirty Kanza, it might be something you have to have, but it might not be.
So let's kind of wrap with, after the event's over, so 27 hours from now and however many hours from now, what would you consider your ideal experience? Is it measured in time, placing, whether you crashed or not? Like, what is your takeaway of saying this event was the ideal event for me?
For me, goes back to that initial question of why I decided to do this event and why I decided to sign up for it, is to push my boundaries and my comfort level and kind of expand that reality, of what's possible. So for me to look back, at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed, and see it as a successful ride, a successful event, is just that I was able to complete it and work through any kind of mechanical breakdowns, mental breakdowns, physiological breakdowns, and get to the finish line, and to show myself that something bigger's possible, and to hopefully show others that you can do more than you think you can do.
Adam, what about you? What's your ideal takeaway?
I mean, a lot of similar goals to Jake. Just challenge myself. I think my longest ride I've ever done is 150 miles, and that was a road camp, like team camp training ride, and it definitely got ugly by the end. But everybody got ugly by the end. I've never ridden a gravel road ride this long ever. So, is it possible? I mean, we all know it's possible because thousands of people do it every year. Is it possible for me? I hope so. Like Jake said, it's a challenge of, can you keep your mind and your equipment rolling down the road and keeping that positive kind of thought process, and eat enough, drink enough. And I think if you can do all that, then you have a lot more fun. And like, we're all out here to have fun and have a positive, like, fun experience and go tell stories about it. And if I can do all that, then it's a good day. So.
All right. Well, hey, we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Best of luck for you in like an hour and a half from now.
Yeah.
Best of luck for you tomorrow. Let's give him a big hand for
Thank you.
doing fire therapy. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right. And just like that, we headed out of the building and onto the expo area. The expo area covered a good portion of downtown Emporia, where it had some of the biggest brands in the cycling industry. On that back street is where they held the start of the Dirty Kanza XL, the 350-mile event. It started at 3 p.m., and the estimated finishing time for the winner was about 4 p.m. that next day, so that's Saturday, June 1st. An intense event, a crazy event. We went over to the start. We covered that. And so what we'd like to do is we'd like to leave you with sort of the countdown to the start of the DKXL event, which is kind of the unofficial start of the Dirty Kanza races themselves. All the other races, the 25-mile, the 50-mile, the 100-mile, and of course the signature 200-mile, all started that next morning, while all the DKXL riders, there were 80 of them, were already on the course. So what we're going to do with this podcast, because we have so much content, is this is the Dirty Kanza Part 1. It's sort of the prelude to the big action. The next episode, which I'm going to put out as soon as possible, is going to feature the pre-race coverage of the DK 200, the race coverage, and of course, all the post-race interviews. So do stay tuned for that. My question to you is, did you go to Dirty Kanza? Have you ever done Dirty Kanza? What do you think of Dirty Kanza? Are you crazy enough to Dirty Kanza? Let me know, Brian@Veloworthy.com, or reach me out on Instagram. I took a ton of pictures. Also added to the highlights on Instagram and Instagram stories of all that. There are just so many things to take pictures of and document and shoot. So I would love to hear back from you of what your experience was like if you were there. And if you were not there, what is it that you want to see in a gravel event that you have participated in? Might not be Dirty Kanza. It could be any other event. Definitely let us know. And of course, we tried our hand at shooting video. I had a camera in one hand and my audio gear in another hand with a backpack on. And that video is up on YouTube. Veloworthy, go ahead and check it out. It's documenting the entire experience. So go ahead and check that out. Until next time, this is Brian Coe saying stay Veloworthy. And we're going to leave you with the start of the DKXL.
When they get back to Emporia. So follow along whenever you can. Get on there, see how they're doing. They'll really appreciate it, knowing that your eyes are on them and encouraging them along via the live tracking from Garmin and TrackTrack. Otherwise, thank you all for being here. We cannot wait to send these riders off here momentarily. When we do, make sure to keep the street clear. We'll make an announcement here shortly, but start making your way out of the street so we've got a clear chute so these riders can leave town unimpeded. But make sure to let them hear you. We want them to know how special this is and how special they are for taking on such a monumental ride. Thank you all. I utilize my resources.